Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Trader Talks, where today we are going to talk about gold and silver. Of course, they've been in the news a lot recently, but they have been moving for quite some time. So we'll discuss all of that very shortly. Please do remember, if you're on the podcast and you want to see what we're talking about on the charts, the link for YouTube is in the bio. And also do remember the presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as investment advice, personal recommendation, or an offer of or solicitation to buy or sell any financial instruments. Now, I also encourage those that are on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, all of that. But let me know what you think about gold and silver. So before we get into the charts, let's discuss what has happened, especially for those people that maybe aren't necessarily aware. Gold is on pace for its best year since 1979. Incredible. Silver has also made new all-time highs, and some of those all-time highs were from many, many years ago previously. So it's recovered all of those moves lower before obviously pushing higher now, and has remarkably pushed on and on and on. Now, reasons why. Now, I decided to make this quite short, so bear with me. Or you don't need to bear with me if it's short. But we've had a much weaker US dollar, certainly since December last year, and that's helped commodities like gold and silver that are priced in US dollars. You've also had a bit of safe haven demand with tariff worries, with geopolitical situations. You've also had central banks buying gold at record levels, and you've also had looser monetary policy. And for example, the Fed recently have suggested more rate cuts are on their way. So that's here to stay for now. However, the question has to be, do they continue higher? Do people need to diversify? So for many people who have been long gold for a while and haven't taken profit, that percentage in their portfolio has obviously increased. So as you head into next year and you know the rest of the year, any moves to the downside will be increased, right? So you need to bear that in mind, and also think they have pushed higher, significantly higher. They are massively overbought technically. How much further can they go? And if you're not in a position, but you like the idea of investing in gold and silver, is it a case of waiting for a pullback before looking to get in? And what should we keep an eye on going forward? And this is why we'll talk about the US dollar as well. But bringing in gold then, it's up a little bit already this week, but I think it's up, and I'll do the calculations in front of you now on the chart. I think it's up 9 weeks in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This will be the 9th. Incredible move. And when you look at where it's traded from since the COVID low, it's up 190%. I remember in COVID, beginning of sort of March, end of Feb, and thinking, why is gold going down? It makes no sense. And then of course it pushed higher, and I actually tweeted out at the time on the week of the the 9th of March. So I reckon gold has made a low here and it's going to push on. Did I hold that position? No. I wish I did, though, of course. Now, how to look at this for gold? I've got a bit of a trend line on, more of as a guide than anything. But in terms of targets to the upside, is it the round number 5,000? Is it using things like Fibonacci extensions? I'm not a massive fan of those, but some people will, to try and get the actual top of the market. I think that's tough to do. So I kind of have marked up a couple of areas that I think are significant. Once we broke above the April high, that's when I think, gold is really ready here to push on. Came back, and then you get that big move to the upside. Fantastic. Now, we've recently broke above another high and extended on for 1, 2, 3, 4 days now. If we were to come back into that area, is that the next level for a pullback? Potentially, I would say so. And also, maybe this trend line here that you see is worth having on, more of a guide, but it at the moment would interact with those previous highs, that if price was to move lower, maybe that's where you start to see a breakdown of gold if it gets below that trend line. But at the moment, it's flying high. I can absolutely understand the argument that there's more to come in the medium term. It's just worth thinking about, especially if you're, managing your portfolio, how much of it is in gold now or is in silver, just in case it does pull back. It's been on an incredible run, even just from, August to where we are now. It's up 30%. Incredible moves. Silver, let's have a look at a couple of key levels. We'll start on the weekly chart just to go back to show you that recent high that it broke above from 2011, I believe. Look at that. Incredible. 2011, big push higher. And recently we closed that week above. We come back down to test it, and we push on in incredible move and extension, and it's up 9 weeks if we finish positive this one as well. And same really for using those previous highs. 2011 high, let's just draw that in there. As long as we stay above that 49.76 on eToro, you'd imagine the move can continue to the upside. However, if price was to break below that, then you can imagine that things may start to push to the downside. And again, similar to gold, I think it's worth having on a bit of a trend line as a guide here, just to see can prices stay above that, and that's your cue maybe for the medium to long term that the overall direction is to the upside. But again, let me know what you're looking at, levels you think are important, what else you're paying attention to. I mentioned earlier we're going to talk about the US dollar as well, because I think it's important. We go back to December last year, or the beginning of January, shall we say, and that's when the dollar really started to weaken, and actually at its worst point, which wasn't too long ago, by the way, it was down 12.7%. That's a massive move for the US dollar index here. However, we could argue that we're in a bit of a range at the moment, and if the US dollar weakening has been a reason for gold and silver and benefiting in other commodities too, then you'd want to see continued weakness. So this trend line here from the low, you'd like to see that break, continue down to the bottom of that. However, if gold was to start to push a little bit higher, maybe even above 100, US dollar or 101, that's when you might start to see gold and silver take a little bit of a breather. If the dollar is to start strengthening and pushing back above north of 100, then maybe it's worth paying attention to for the moves it's going to have on gold and silver. So I think it's worth having this on for the dollar index, just this bit of a range. Use it as a guide. So dollar strength, okay, maybe gold and silver might just hold back a little bit now. Continued dollar weakness from the overall trend, and gold and silver can push on too. Hope that was helpful. Let me know your thoughts as always in the chat. I'm always interested to hear. And also let me know what you want me to look at next time out as well. Take care, everyone, and see you soon.